the action. Bring the action. objects or people. The more you upgrade it, the heavier the objects you can pick up, and there are other ways to upgrade it so you can kind of steal life while holding people, but primarily you can use this to hold and manipulate objects. Then following that you have is to climb buildings. There is a better way to do it later, which you will see in this video, but primarily at the beginning of the game this is how you will do it. You go up to the side of a building and you basically keep pressing jump, and you effectively climb the wall just by jumping. Pretty useful, and does mean you can sort of scale tall buildings relatively quickly. Next up is super speed. Now this one pretty much does what it says on the tin. You hold down left bumper and you sprint ridiculously fast. You can upgrade this again later so you can run even faster. But one of the cool things is you can upgrade it to have wall run ability. So you can basically run up the side of a skyscraper. So as I said before, you no longer need to jump up the side of a wall because you can now run up the side of a wall. Now another awesome way you can upgrade your jump is the ability to glide. Basically, instead of having to jump off a building and then fall down, you can instead glide, and that way you can sort of cover quite a lot of ground, and it does really help you out later on, especially when you're trying to sort of get across the city quite fast. Also, off the back of that, you can also upgrade it so that you can air dash. It's restricted, you can't sort of do it infinitely. Initially you'll only be able to dash once, but there is an upgrade to dash a second time. Basically what happens is you then jump off a building, you press LB and it'll dash first, and then you press and hold LB and then you'll start gliding. So it just means, again, you can cover a bit more ground. Now another cool thing you can do when you're in the air is a move called Death from Above. Basically when you're in the air, if you hold down left trigger, you basically bring up an aiming reticle, and if you press right trigger, you will then slam down where you're aiming. So for example, when you see in front, there's a big group of enemies. By doing this, I can then aim down at them and slam down, and if they're right below, then they do quite a bit of damage. This one, the higher you are, the bigger the impact, so obviously you want to do this from as high as possible. But it is a pretty good way to clear out enemies, or at least knock them over. Now the other passive ability is the shield ability that you probably saw at the menu at the beginning. This is basically an ability that just comes up when you're running. So for example, if I'm sprinting really fast and I run into things, it kind of shields me from projectiles, shields me from things like that, and it's
Where did you come from?